Hello everybody and welcome to Going for Goldbridge. It's a bonus one. I was going to do my second top 5 this week, but I think we've gone through such a weird week that I felt like a second Going for Goldbridge would be good. I've asked for a lot of questions and topics. We'll go through that in a minute. We'll talk about the elephant in the room, and I'm not talking about Nelly. We'll be talking about this pandemic, the crisis, the impact it's going to have on us. You know, I do the football stuff, and I think the football stuff is relevant, but this is a more of a general chat. But I want to start off with with a smile, because I think we all want to smile. Laughter's the best medicine. And somebody said to me, what was the funniest thing that happened in your school days? And one thing that came to mind, and it may not be the funniest, but it just came to mind very quickly, and I just thought I'll go with that, because I think when you're at school, things happen that are funny that you probably think aren't funny now. But I do remember there was this lad in our year who was just an absolute prat, and he basically, when we were like year 2, I think it was, he'd gone and picked on lads in the year below, and they told us about it. So we basically grabbed him, took him outside, stuck him next to a tree, and got about 4 rolls of sellotape and sellotaped him to the tree like that. Which, absolutely, the tree we'd done it to was the main walkway to get your lunch. So people were walking past, and people were laughing their head off, and they were like, oh, it looks like he's shagging a tree. So we went and stood about 20 metres away, and he's trying to get himself loose from this tree with sellotape, and it looks from a distance like he's shagging a tree. So that was just hilarious. And it's a shame, you know, it's a shame looking back that phones, I always think that, you know, modern technology, I'm glad it wasn't around when I was a kid, but that would have been a great thing to film. It would have gone viral. You can only imagine it, but we put 4 rolls of sellotape around him and the tree, so he couldn't get out, but he was trying to get out, and he was like that. And it looked like he was shagging a tree from distance, because sellotape is see-through. But look, let's crack on with the situation at the moment. So we've had football suspended, large gatherings, obviously cinema, pubs, restaurants, seeing elderly relatives, etc., etc. We're moving towards a time that's very what's the word? Interesting, I suppose, to put it bluntly. And the thing I wanted to say about this is, look, we need to stick together, and we need to stay calm, and we need to stay focused, and we need to not get mad. Like, I know if you support this team or you support that team, or you like that film or you like that program, or you don't like that person or you don't like that, you know, we live in a divisive world, we live in an opinionated world, and I think that's great, because it shows that democracy works and people can have a different opinion. But I think on this we've got to be united. And what I haven't liked across social media is the amount of people, some of them with the blue tick twat brigade, saying their opinion just because they've got a couple of million followers, like, oh, shut this down, stop that, why aren't we doing this? And I'm like, you're a media celebrity, or you're an ex-footballer. What are you doing sticking your nose into something you've not qualified to do? And I'm not saying what we're doing in the UK is right or wrong, but what I am saying is that the Prime Minister is flanked by 2 experts. Whatever you think about the Prime Minister, you might think he's Charlie Austin, you might think he's Lacazette. He's flanked by Messi and Ronaldo in their arena. Like, these are medical experts advising him. He's not going, I just want to do this. They're telling him what to do. They're trusting the science. So I'm not saying it's going to be right or wrong, but when you get the blue tick brigade or the prats online going, oh, well, we should be doing this, we should be doing that, Ireland are doing this, Sweden are doing that. We're doing this. We're doing this, and we're only just starting down this road, and people are going, oh, but look what happened in Italy. We're heading for the same thing. Italy had no idea. We've got the benefit of experience. We've got the benefit of seeing what's happening in Italy, because they're a few weeks ahead of us. So I just think, look, it's going to be a bumpy ride. Whatever we're trying might be the right thing to do. And I think, look, I lived in Ireland for 3 years, and I saw the other day that Ireland are closing schools, and you know, Dublin's not quite on lockdown, but they're closing schools already. They've not had that many cases over there. And I was listening to something yesterday, and what somebody said, an expert on Newsnight said, if I was in charge of this, if I could do the ideal thing in the UK, I would move everybody over 70 to Scotland and everybody under 70 out of Scotland, put them all together, let everybody in England who's under 70 get it, and everybody up in Scotland doesn't get it, and then when it's sorted out down here, bring them all back again, because you protected the vulnerable and everybody who can deal with it has had it. And that seems to be the advice. The thing about lockdown is, if you lock down, and I'm talking from like experts I've been listening to on the telly and everything like that, if you lock down too soon, you're going to send people stir crazy. Like, you know, we're not going to have football, film, whatever for 3 or 4 months. Also, it does, if you lock down too soon before it's spreading enough, it isn't going to spread anyway, because not enough people have got it and you're all on lockdown. We have got no vaccine. They call it herd immunity. That's what they're trying to get. They'll never say it, but actually it's better. The more people get it who can deal with it, the better. If you think about 60% of the UK get this, they get a mild illness and they're over it. That means when the second wave comes, that 60% can't get it again, which means less spread the second time out. If you put 99% of the population behind closed doors and leave 1% with it, they'll be over in it about 3 weeks. We let the 99% back out, another wave comes in from wherever, and we're back where we were. So I think what they're trying to do is manage their way through this by controlling how many people get it to a certain extent, so it's not too many to overwhelm the National Health Service. But I think that what they're trying to do is they're trying to build up an immunity because there is no vaccine. They're trying to keep schools open and to a certain extent social gatherings open so that it does move through the population but not at a rapid rate. That's the sort of thing I'm looking at. I think what people are getting confused here is they just think, oh, let's lock everything down, let's not let anyone get it. But that's not going to work without a vaccine, because you lock everyone down for a month, no one gets it, you let them out again, someone comes in from abroad with it, we're all on lockdown for another month again, and it will never stop until a vaccine happens, which could be 18 months. The logical way, and this is what some of the scientists are saying, is that if you can just let it grow through the population gradually, people will get it, they won't then get it again, and then that will slow it down naturally, because if 60% of the nation have had it, when the second wave comes, 60% have already had it, so the spread will be far less. I hope that makes sense, because it did make sense to me when I saw it. So all these people who are going, close the schools down, close this down, close that down, their strategy is to basically put everyone into self-isolation for 2 months, which, all right, that might work. But when you let them back out, nobody's had it. So they're all going to get it again. They're all going to get it for the first time. And then we're going to have to go on self-isolation again. The country, the world is going to bleed itself dry financially. And we'll never get anything done. We'll never have sport again. I think what we're trying to do as a country, from an outsider looking in, I think that we're not closing schools early. We're not shutting everything down early, because we're trying to find a strategy to work through it. Now, ultimately, no matter what anybody happens, people are going to get ill, people are going to get sick, and unfortunately people are going to lose their life. But we're dealing with something unprecedented here. And what I would say is just instead, don't listen to twats on social media who don't know what they're on about. That's what I would say. Don't even listen to me, like, if you don't want to. But do your research, read about things, listen to the experts, and listen to what we appear to be doing in England. I think we're trying to do the build up immunity by people getting it, but trying to avoid loads of people getting it at the same time, because that's the best vaccine for it. Like, if Tom Hanks gets over it, he can walk around free, because he ain't going to get it again for a long time. Same with Arteta and people like that. Whereas if you haven't had it, well, that's the perfect example, isn't it? If Arteta recovers, which I'm sure he will do, and then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer hasn't had it, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for the next year has got to be very careful about washing his hands, staying away from certain areas. Arteta, once he's had it and recovered, he can walk around doing what he wants because he's had it. And I think that's what the English government are trying to do. They're sort of like, how long will we be locked down for if we just try and protect people, which, this spreads so much. So it's a very interesting time, to put it mildly. But I do think the most important thing is that we all stick together and stop arguing about things that we don't know about. And it's very hard. It's very hard. And I've spoken about this before in relation to bullying, mental health, all sorts of things. It's very hard in the modern world when you've got people who have this influence. We saw it in the election. People with influence, like musicians, the Blue Tick Brigade, who aren't politicians, trying to get people to vote for the thing they want to through their influence that they've got through something else. And I think we're seeing that again now. People who have got lots and lots of followers for something else, trying to impart their opinion on something that's a pandemic that they're not qualified for. So we've got to be careful for that, but we've always got to be careful of that. What's your thoughts on the Premier League being suspended for 2 weeks, says Jamie? Well, I think it's a good idea. I think it has to happen when you get footballers and managers catching it, and there was talk that Everton are in quarantine and Leicester. You just can't play the games. I think if the games could have been played because nobody's got it, there's a different decision to be made there. You could have gone behind closed doors. But when Premier League footballers and managers have got it, you've got to suspend it. It's not great, but it's the way it is. And please do subscribe to this channel, by the way, because I'll probably be doing a lot more of these now. There's less football to watch. Well, there's no football to watch. Did I agree with Boris's decision yesterday, says Ethan Gaden. Look, I think the more I researched it, the more I saw what they were doing. All I can see is people saying, we need to close schools, we need to do this. Well, the youth the youth are not vulnerable. The vulnerable people are the elderly. So if you close all the schools, we still need nurses, we still need the police, we still need firemen, still need people to go to work. So parents are probably going to still have to go to work. Who are they going to get to look after their kids? Grandparents. Who are the risk? Grandparents. So you take kids out to school, and then the grandparents looking after the kids who are super spreaders. Now, not in all cases, I know, but that's a strategy that, again, you don't get Piers Morgan thinking like that, do you? Because he doesn't think like that. You've got to think about things strategically. If you close schools, where are those kids going? Are they going to go and spend the day with the grandparents, auntie, whatever? I just think, I'm not saying what we're doing is right, but what I'm saying is people are very, very quick to criticise, and yet we've not seen what the end game is yet. Let's see what the end game is. What's the best financial advice you've got for someone, says James Meredith? At the moment, I don't bloody know, because my personal pension's gone down by about 5% in a week. But that's a long-term plan anyway, isn't it? The financial markets are messed up, aren't they? You said this time last year you would follow me next year. Will you keep your words, as the Power MUF say? Hey, there's still plenty of months left. Let's see where we are in a few months' time. And if you could have any superpower, which would it be and why, says Kyle? I think at the moment, if I had a superpower, totally selfishly, my superpower would be to be a vaccine for... My kiss would get rid of coronavirus. I'd have to kiss some horrible, ugly people as well as some nice people as well, but I would do it for medical science. A cure, yes, definitely a cure. I don't like the fact that we're going to be going through all this. I don't want us to have to go through all this. The disruption, even that. When did you move out your parents' house, says Sam Webb? Huh, that's an interesting question. I was 18 when I moved to Dublin. Was I 18 when I moved out of Dublin? I was 19. Yeah, I was 19 when I moved out. I was 19 when I moved out. 19 and a half. And I moved out the country as well. How many jobs did you have and how old are you? I'm not answering that, Imar. It's a boring question. How long before you think everyone will go back to normal, says Ivan? This is a total prediction. I've not even seen any experts talking about this. You look at China, they're almost getting back to normal from lockdown in Wuhan. That's probably 3 months. So, yeah, I would say, let's see where we are in end of May. I don't think we're going to see football for a long time. So if you want to see football, get on Mark Goldbridge. That's football, because that's where we're going to be doing FIFA and stuff. Presuming I'm probably going to get sick at some point, and you don't know, do you? You just don't know what the situation's going to be. I might not be here in 3 months. I know that sounds sensationalist, but you just don't know what's going to happen. I don't know whether I've got any underlying health condition. I presume I haven't, but you just don't know. What is it like not having your real name as social media personality, and does your Mark Goldbridge persona intrude on your real life, says CC Carr? I mean, this is a good question. So obviously the name Mark Goldbridge isn't my legal name, because when I was in the police, I started the United Stand. I had to run it by, because if you're in the police, it might be the same in nursing and the fire service, but if you're in the police, any extra work you do, whether it's a paper round, window cleaning, whatever, you've got to declare it, and they've got to know everything about it, because you could go and work with somebody who's dodgy, who's paying you money, etc., which is totally right. So I presented this idea that I was going to do this like YouTube thing, even though it was only going to be a hobby. I didn't think it was going to be successful, and they said you can do it, but the problem is if you're going to be critical about clubs and players and everything like that, it's probably best that you're not using your real name. So I had to make up a name, which was Mark Goldbridge. And it's funny because most people I work with call me Mark, and Flex calls me Mark, even though that he knows that's not my name. So it's almost at the point now where maybe I should just change my name to Mark, because I don't ever really get called by my real name. So it's not a persona, is what I'm trying to say. It was a name I had to use for this, but actually has sort of become my name, which is I mean, it's that simple, really. I think these idiots who say, oh, he doesn't even use his real name, it's all an act. Like, why would you make up a fake name unless there was a reason to do it, or unless you were an actor? But how can you act 5 years of your life 3 or 4 times a day watching football and stuff like that? The reason is the reason. And Do you like gingers? I actually do. I always quite fancied them, to be honest. What was that one off Home and Away? Used to quite like her as a kid. I know her name in real life's Isla Fisher, isn't it? I don't like her now. Obviously, I'm married and all that lot. But as a kid, you have crushes, don't you? What's your morning skincare routine? Do you use something to wash your face? I don't have a skincare routine, to be honest. I do used to get quite a lot of spots around here, and even when I was doing the United Stand, they seem to have cleared up a bit now. I don't know whether it's through age or just drinking a lot of water. I do drink a lot of water. Yeah, I do that. This is a good question from Will. He says, what would you do regarding the school closing situation in the UK? I'm currently doing my A-levels, so it's far from convenient timing, but I think schools need to be shut as it will spread quickly. Will, I think if you're in school, and I've spoken to a lot of people, I know why people want the schools to close, because they don't want to go to school. But as I've already explained there, the point is people aren't thinking, because they're just thinking too shallow. They're not diving into the deep. They're not diving deep to think about that decision. I actually agree with schools being kept open. I have got kids. If they're at home, it makes no difference to me because they're old enough to be given work. I can send them out into the garden to do chores. They can go doing my shopping, my ironing and all that. No, I'm joking. But they're old enough that they can go and play with a Lego or watch a film or something like that. And I can still do my work, and so can the wife if she's working from home. So I'm not bothered about that. What I'm saying is what I said before. It's like I know from working in jobs, a lot of parents don't have family that can have their kids, so who looks after their kids? And if they're nurses and stuff like that, that takes away from the National Health Service. But I think the most important thing is kids are not affected by this. They're not getting ill from this, which is great, absolutely superb. They're not. The young are not getting really ill from this, which is a godsend. It really is. Imagine if like everybody was vulnerable as the people who are elderly and have underlying health conditions. So we're very lucky in that sense, and I think with regards to this, it's going to be very, very difficult, but I hope as a world that we learn lessons from it, because there are so many lessons to be learned, i.e. we don't have enough support for our national health services. Do we have enough contingency plans in place for these sort of things? It's almost like a dry run, but unfortunately some people will die, of course, but the young are not affected by it. So, but the young do spread it, like you say. But the point is, people need to go to work still, especially people in essential jobs, which are the emergency services. So if those people, which a lot of them do have kids, who looks after their kids? Do they have to take time off to look after their kids? Or are they going to be handing them on to grandparents, etc.? Kids have got to go somewhere is what I'm trying to say. And I think at the moment the decision not to shut schools is probably about right. Because also, what people are not forgetting is this was spoken about a few weeks ago as part of the plan. There will be a point where we press the button on isolation tactics, social gathering, minimalisation, where schools are closed. I think people just want it to happen now. Oh, let's get it now. But I definitely think there is an optimal time. Do you want to be sat in your house for 3 months with not a lot to do other than watching me and Netflix? You know, so there is an optimum time to do it, and I don't think we've achieved that yet. But that's just my opinion. You know, who's to say in a couple of weeks our National Health Service isn't overwhelmed and everyone's saying we should have pressed the button sooner? But I do think there's logic to what they're trying to do. I definitely do. Ethan says, general opinion on football Twitter. Well, look, I've got no problem with football Twitter. I think it's in the main, 99% of it's very funny. There's a lot of funny stuff on there. I don't like it when it gets abusive and horrible, because I don't like that in the main. But banter levels are very high there. And I certainly follow quite a few myself, because I just find a lot of what they tweet is quite funny. But sometimes they can go a little bit close to the bone. Like, there are people who are part of that who say stuff about Dan James's dad and stuff like that. It's too far. That's too far. And I think comedy is a skill. And if you have to go into the gutter, you failed. Comedy is a skill. You should have to work for it. Sometimes you've got to take a few minutes for a funny line. That's how it works. You know, I know that from the stuff I've done. I'm not saying I'm funny, but, you know, sometimes you've got to think about a funny line. But I think sometimes going for the obvious horrible line, it's too easy and it's too far. Anyway, look, very, very quick one there. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new. We will be doing these more regularly. I'll have the top fives back as well. But I just felt that today especially was a time to sort of spread that message that we do need to come together and we do need to stop arguing about what experts are doing. Now is not the time. if one country's doing one thing and one country think one's doing another, let's just see, because ultimately South Korea are doing it different to everybody. South Korea have done way more testing and they've got a way lower death rate. Nobody, you know, Ireland might have shut their schools, France might have done this, Sweden might have done that, Italy might have done this, the UK might be doing that, but none of us are doing what South Korea did, and that's the best tactic. So, you know, why are we going, well, they're doing that, we're not doing that? Their way's not been proven to be successful. The South Korean way's been proven to be successful, and no one's doing that. So maybe our way will be more successful. Maybe a lot of our population will get over it, and then when other countries are having more and more problems because they isolated too soon, we'll be going, you know what, we've pretty much got on top of it. You can come over to our country because most of us have had it. So, you know, maybe there's a strategy here to do it, but we'll have to wait and see. Now is not the time for criticism, I don't think. Now is the time for unity, togetherness, and that's the only thing that's going to get us through this. Thanks for watching. Please do subscribe and get your comments in below. I'll speak to you soon.